Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sundays on the Biophilic Alternative. My name is Bella, and I'm your Sunday host. And today I'm going to respond to Spin Pixie's video about what makes a spell. And first I'm going to read a common compilation of ideas about what a spell is, and then I'm going to put my personal thoughts to it. What is a spell? A spell is a spoken or written formula that you use in an act of magic Magic is intended to cause or influence a particular course of events. Belief in and the use of spells are universal and have been an integral part of religious practices since ancient times. Methods varying according to culture, but all spell work is based on ritual. Spells are closely related to prayers, which are rituals consisting of a petition to the gods or deities, whatever the religion or faith, for the desired outcome. It involves the visualization of a goal, a statement of desire for the goal, or ritualized movements of body positions, i.e. the bowing of the head, the clasping of the hands, the closing of the eyes, etc. In magic, spells are closely related to various methods of mind power, such as creative visualization, positive thinking, positive imaging. See what is magic. All of the emphasis on mental images of the goal and or identification with it, repetition of our intent to achieve this goal, projection of our will, and petition to the spirits or deities or the divine force for their aid. These types of spells are commonly used on a daily basis. The simple lighting of a candle starting the ritual process. Such daily spells constitute minor magic such as blessing, self-help, positive thoughts, and the sending of helpful healing energies to others. Used on a daily basis, it is not therefore necessary to undertake the cumbersome task of the full circle casting ritual. Spells can be beneficial or harmful, and can be worked on people, animals, and nature. Their purpose are limited and including healing, love, money, success, fertility, longevity, and the protection from a disaster, ill fortune, and evil. They can also be used to exorcise ghosts and spirits, for victory in battle, truth in divination, weather control, and the accomplishment of supernatural feats. When directed against enemies, spells can be used to cause illness, destruction, loss of love, impotence, barrenness, failure, and even death. Spells can be cast to affect the self or direct to affect another person. A positive spell is often called a blessing, although such an archaic term as bewitchment and enchantment are still sometimes used. Negative spells are generally known as hexes or curses. A binding spell is one intended to prevent harm, avoid danger, or to stop someone from performing particular acts, like halting a murder, preventing a rape, or even stopping the spread of gossip. In most cultures, witches, sorcerers, witch doctors, magicians, and other magically empowered peoples cast both beneficial and harmful spells as the need dictates. However, in contemporary paganism and witchcraft, a set of ethics that prohibits the use of curses and negative spells against another are in place through the Wiccan Rede and the threefold law for those who have ascribed to it. The accessibility of a binding spell is divided and is widely debated throughout the community. This is now how it works according to this. A major act of magic requires a ritual and a spell performed inside a properly constructed circle. The spell consists of words or incantations, sometimes called a charm or rune. The ritual is a set of actions performed while the words are being spoken. The ancient Egyptians believed words were so powerful that speaking them would bring them about the desired goal. Words and names of power were vital to Egyptian magic and had to be pronounced correctly and with the proper intonation. In Western magic, the ultimate name of the power is the tetragrammaton, Yahweh, the sacred name of God. A spell-casting ritual raises power and energy through a combination of visualization, meditation, identification, body movement, and projection of will. The success of a spell rests on the energy and will power raised, together with the skill in which they are focused and projected. Words, chants, songs, movements, objects such as ritual tools, effigies, poppets, cords, candles, as well as materials such as parchment, herbs, oils, and others, all facilitate spellcasting. In contemporary witchcraft, spellcasting is performed within the magic circle. Many covens work spells as part of their regular meetings, though each coven may use differing techniques. To start, the goal of a spell is stated, and some witches write it down. The act of writing down the goal emphasizes the positive thinking techniques and helps to bolster the will to achieve the goal. Any preparation for the ritual are made, such as lighting colored candles or mixing herbs and oils, each action generating energy and increasing will power concentration towards the goal. In healing or love rituals, an herb-filled poppet or cloth doll might be used to identify the likeness of the object of the spell. To aid the likeness, the doll may be marked with the person's name or astrological sign, or even stuffed with a personal hair or nail clippings taken from the object of the spell. A photograph of the person might be used. If a doll or a poppet is not being used, then a mental image or thought form is created. If the spell is being worked by a group, all must agree on the image and hold it firmly in their minds. Power and energy is then raised by various means, including chanting, dancing, tying knots in cords, or clapping hands. Drums, rattles, and the playing of music may also be used to raise power. Witches invite higher forces to work with them in implementing a spell. This is usually some aspect of the goddess or god, together with the forces of the elements. Other deities may be called upon whose aspects best suit the nature of the spell. For instance, a money-making spell might be addressed to Math, the god of wealth and increase. Similarly, for the love-binding spell, Aphrodite might be called. While performing the ritual, the witch focuses intense concentration and willpower into achieving the goal. And when the psychic power and energy being raised is at its peak, it is then released and directed towards the goal while visualizing and seeing the results being accomplished. Once the spell has been completed, the ritual ends with a psychic cleanup to banish and ground any remnants of psychic energy. This is normally done with the cakes and wine ritual, after which the deities and elements are thanked and the circle is banished. That definition and compilation was taken from the Encyclopedia of Witches and Witchcraft by Rosemary Guiley, as it was compiled by George Knowles. That is where I found a most comprehensive description of what a spell is that I could pretty much agree with the entire things that were spoken and mentioned in key points. But as Finn said, it starts with a thought, and all spell work starts in the mind with a thought. We always start in the, well, at least I do. I know that Aleister Crowley didn't always start in the East. He started in the North and got great controversy just over that very act of starting in the North instead of starting in the East. He did that because he wanted to start in the North, which was the area of manifestation, whereas the thought process starts in the East, as where the sun comes up, the start of the day. It's the very analogy of everything to do with the new beginning, the dawn. So if everything starts with a thought, I think your intention, in my opinion, is the most important part of my spell work. And I'm going to use my spell work because everyone is going to be different, because it's about the activation of the mind and the will that you have to put into the spell that drives the power of the spell. Intention to me is the most important part, because everything else that I'm going to do is about the focus or the will and the building of the energy of the spell. But my intention has to be very focused throughout the entire portion of that. This starts out saying that a spell is a verbal or written concept. It starts out a spell is spoken or written formula. That's why if you read any of the older ideas of how you start a spell, they would do a spell in a very rhyming fashion or a very poetic prose. But the reason for that was it took time to write the spell in an effective way while trying to use rhyming words. And all of that was doing was activating the thought process and activating the concentration of the focus of the mind on the purpose at hand, the stated goal. And that goal, of course, was the intended end of the spell work. So, spoken and written formula, it helps cement in the intention of the first thought. So again, it's about intention and focus. When you start to pull all the elements of the spell together, again, it is about intention and focus, that you are focusing your mind on every layer of the spell for your intended goal. So it's reinforcing everything that you're doing on the original goal or first thought. These are very critical, and in my meditations I wanted to always know the how and the why of how these things would work. I needed to know the why and the how, because that was going to, in my mind, always take me to what I needed to do and know to get anything accomplished. And that was the way I was in schoolwork or anything. Tell me why I'm doing this and I can figure out the how myself. My brain will activate the how from the why. So as I was researching, I found two key aspects on intention and the thought process and the connection between the feelings and emotion that you do, which is very key in that spell work as well, is the raising of the energy. And the first thing I found was the Isaiah Effect. It was a book by Braden. And it was something from the book of Isaiah, and where Isaiah in that book teaches you about prayer. But it had been so badly hacked through the repeated translations and condensing a lot of information that a lot of the ancients at the time didn't deem necessary to either put in the Bible at that point in that book, or this would have been the Council of Nice when they were first compiling everything. Or it was something that was so matter of fact at that time that they didn't feel it was necessary. But when the Dead Sea Scrolls came, and they found them in Qumran, and they started the diligent work of piecing the scrolls back together and retranslating from ancient Aramaic with modern known values of the ancient languages, they came across the lost mode of prayer, which he writes about extensively in that book. It is the latest translation of the book of Isaiah back to one of its purest states, which was within 1,000 years or so of it actually being written. So this is the way the Essenes had seen it and had wrote it down. They basically equated that it was not so much the words used, but the feeling and emotion going into the prayer itself is what set the vibration and tone, and that is what is matched. It is vibration that is matched, not the words. People get confused with that. New Age thought on it, as they call it, New Age, which is still all from ancient texts, beliefs, cultures, being brought back to the forefront because, as Annika Garrett did do a recent video, understanding now that the New Age was not anything about being new today, but being a new age of Aquarius that we're headed into. We're making the transition right now. The age of Pisces is filtering away, and the age of Aquarius is and has been coming in for a while. That was the marking of the 2012 winter solstice. It doesn't mean that it happens right then. It means, exactly as she put it, that there is a transition period. And that transition period is over many years. It is not something that is a single point in time and everything shifts and changes. But in that, the new thought movement came about in the 1800s, or at least it was a resurgent in the 1800s. Where it originally came from, no one really knows. but it was observations of things that had been going on. This is also where you get the power of positive thinking and imagery, creative visualization. All of these still play hand in hand. They are explanations of how the spells have always worked. This is something that has happened since the beginning of time. This isn't something new. The Sylvan method has been using this as well, and they use the 17-second rule. 17 seconds to magnetize a thought and create it into being. And it can give you a mini miracle. Now, it was expanded because for every 17 seconds that you apply in pure thought, and let me explain that pure thought is not thought in the original first thought. First thought brings about a series of events of everything else that goes along with that thought. It means that everything is about that particular goal, but the thoughts can change, but as they build in succession. So if you say that you're bringing in a money spell and the thought is on money, and then the thought is, and money generates other thoughts of feelings of security, feelings of empowerment, feelings of what you can do good with that money, that kind of thing. As long as it is not about how you're feeling about a lack of money and about a lack of abundance and about a lack of that. That is the negative vibration you don't want. You want the positive vibration of appreciation, of gratitude, of what it feels like when you have plenty of money in your purse, and not in what it feels like because, oh, now I can be greedily buying what I want, but more the security, the feeling that you have more of a power to be generous and giving, and that is the feeling of abundance. And you generate the positive feelings towards that. And those thoughts all are part of the pure thought. It takes 17 seconds, and 17 seconds in energy expansion is 2,000 action hours. And it's a mini miracle, or a mini spell casting. 34 seconds is 20,000 action hours of energy expansion, and it is the medium size. 51 seconds is 200,000 action hours of energy expansion, and it becomes a very large miracle or goal or spell work or prayer as well. 68 seconds is 2 million action hours of energy expansion. Now, this is what the New Thought movement takes it as. But I'm not telling you that that is what I necessarily believed in. What I'm saying about that concept is that when you sit down with the intention of creating a spell and you work to do the writing of the spell and you work to cast your circle and you work to light those candles and you work to burn that incense and you work to use those herbs and you work to use those stones or poppets, or again, whatever it is that you're intending to build and the tools that you are intending to use. We as spellcasters use so much more time than this, so much more energy expansion than this. And then we work the time in this circle. The more you put into the spell, the more thought process you put in, you're expanding the potential of the end goal of that spell. Everything that you're using in the spell work itself becomes the tool for expanding the thought process, which the Sylvan method or the Abraham Hicks method or the New Thought movement, because you can find these things in many different things. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, again, was this New Thought movement. The Christian Scientist was the New Thought movement. There were so many different ones. This is why I'm eclectic and I pick from everything, because it gave me different pieces of that puzzle. It didn't change what I was doing in my circle. It let me know that my intention and my focused thoughts had to be there to generate everything. That is why they tell you, you don't need anything but your mind to bring about your desired results as a spellcaster. But every layer that you use is about activation of that intention, that will, that focus. And then it is about driving that emotion, that energy. And that's where the chants, that's why the poetic nature of spell writing, that is why music, drums, rattles, all of those things can build this emotion and energy in you. And that is magnetizing the goal. And when you magnetize that goal, that is what makes a powerful spell, to me, in my opinion. I look at it as this. Air starts the process with the first thought. It moves to fire, and it drives it with the will and desire. Water magnetizes it with emotion. And earth brings it into the manifestation or the transformation of the energy that is being used. Spirit is there and always present with yourself in the center of that circle. But it is you making sure the open connection to the spirit that is the universal tide of power. And so spirit connects the air, spirit connects the fire, and spirit connects the water, so that spirit can connect the earth and bring it into fruition. So this is just my first of many talks on what it is, spell work. She brought up several different questions that can bring the topic to so many different areas and can take it in so many different directions. This is just my first part of what is a spell, so that I can continue this conversation with Spin. And I think it is very important, especially when people are going from the simple spells to the more advanced spells. This is some of the work that needs to be done. I have gotten success with lighting a candle and writing a petition. There is no doubt. But those are the simple spells. And don't discount simple spells, because simple spells can do a lot of great work. They can bring you a lot of great rewards and means to an end. But when you're ready for more advanced spell work, these are the concepts that you have to keep in mind, and building that circle and all of that this is the work of the intermediate, basically. The advanced, which doesn't need any of that, she forms it all in, or he forms it all within his mind. But the advanced witch knows that's how they were able to build it so strongly in their mind. The actual physical act of doing these things lends power. And even the advanced witch will do everything when there is opportunity to do that to make sure that the mind stays where it needs to stay to get the desired effect and end of the goal. So I'm going to end it here today, and I hope more people start joining in this conversation and putting what they believe. These are just my thoughts, and I know there are some varying thoughts, but as I've looked at all the varying thoughts, I think that we are still in agreement, not in disagreement. I think some people who do not understand using the New Thought movement in spell work or using the Isaiah effect, the lost mode of prayer, is only because they haven't studied it thoroughly and understand the full concept and grasp of it. If you're looking at the movie The Secret, you're not going to get it there. It's not in that movie. You have to take it so much further. They're pointing you to directions. I resisted even watching the movie The Secret for the longest time, but I had already been on these other concepts because I had been doing research into the early works of all of this. The early works of Aleister Crowley, the early works of the New Dawn, the Golden Dawn. These were based from some of this New Thought movement, and it is more utilized than most people realize. Most people think that it was just something that came about in this part, like in the years 2000 and plus. I don't know when The Secret came out, but it wasn't. It is based on things so much further back, and if you do research into these things, sometimes these are the very things that can open your mind to the concepts that you were actually reading in your own original studies. It can help clarify things. It can open your mind to a broader horizon to the same basic concept that you were using. Because we've lost so much information, and because we have to do things in reading instead of doing, where we would be doing this as an apprentice to a magician, or an apprentice to a high priestess, or an apprentice to even your grandmother or your mother, as she was teaching you this work. We don't have that as much anymore, and because of that, these concepts are not so easily put into words. And sometimes that's the very essence of what wasn't put into the words, because they didn't want to give you the secrets. And if you get a hold of a book of the Masonics, they only put certain principles in the book. They don't give you the essence of everything. And that is something that is supposed to be apprenticed into the person. So you've got to search ways to find these things in science, because our craft is more scientific than people realize. It is based in laws. That's why they pulled in quantum physics. That's why they pulled in a lot of different science. People don't fully understand the law of attraction. They think like attracts like, and then the other person will say, that we know that not to be true. Opposites attract. Yes, but it's the same vibration. And that's the part that people need to understand. For every victim, there's a predator, and actually vibrating on the same vibration. And that's why it's important to be mindful of your emotions and mindful of your attractions like that. If you start seeing negative things being attracted into your life, it is your thought process and your emotion that has to change. And the minute it changes, those things will start to fall away and more positive things will come in. You're magnetizing your subconscious, and it takes a while to demagnetize it to something that you do not want in your life and to magnetize it into something that you do want. This is about habit changing and stuff like that. It just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper, because spell work is not always what it is in a full out spell. You're magnetizing your thoughts and your feelings with emotion, and when you do that, that is going to be the energy flow in your life, and it is the same as with your spell work. So I'm going to stop here, and y'all have a wonderful Sunday, and enjoy your family and your friends, loved ones, and blessed be.